afternoon, everyone. I'm going to present you today specific aspects of my PhD dissertation, and I'm going to talk today about the dialectics of scientific knowledge and public discussion in the case of photosynthesis and global warming. So, photosynthesis is a highly important science concept for understanding how the world functions as an ecosystem, and it is one of the most important biochemical processes on Earth. Therefore, this concept is a cornerstone of school biology curriculum. However, as scientific literature show, learners have many robust misconceptions regarding photosynthesis that tend to be very resistant to instruction. Although this concept is embedded in a wider social scientific context, it is usually being taught in a rather isolated manner, such as a scientific concept. One of the social scientific context might be the global warming. So briefly, global warming and photosynthesis have indirectly through carbon cycle, while photosynthesis has clear-cut and agreed upon scientific definition. Global warming doesn't, as I showed you now. There is ongoing controversy regarding global warming, as we heard today. Its nature and causes in both the scientific literature and the popular myth. So, on the one hand, global warming is caused by human activities, such as burning fossil fuels. This is a predominant approach that is being held by most scientists, as opposed to a few scientists that claim that changes in temperature are a natural part of Earth's climate. And both of the groups have ample evidence for their claims. And these disputes still linger. So, as we see here, there is a massive media coverage regarding photosynthesis, and there is still no final proof regarding global warming. So, if news reflects the public's interest in science, we see here the gap. So, the big challenge for us is, given that learners are not spontaneously interested in photosynthesis, and they have diverse and robust misconceptions regarding photosynthesis, is it even possible to engage the students in a productive scientific argumentation regarding photosynthesis as a result to enhance their conceptual learning? One possible solution might be presenting the indirect link to global warming, which people are spontaneously interested in, and also engaging people in the discourse regarding the ongoing interesting dispute. So briefly, I will present the theoretical background. Argumentation can enhance conceptual learning, as scientific literature show, but it rarely happens, and when it happens, it is often unproductive. However, even in this problematic situation, it is worth it to find ways to do the argumentation, since we know that gains from argumentation are stable. It is then important to consider what encourages and what inhibits the deployment of productive argumentation in dyadic interaction. So the present research is about one possible inhibitor or catalyzer for emergence of productive argumentation, the achievement goals people set when engaging in dyadic interaction. And I'm specifically interested in conceptual change in science, so I will briefly explain this theory. So in the late 70s, researchers such as Carol Dweck and John Nichols introduced the achievement goal theory. It is one of the predominant motivational perspectives for the analysis of academic motivation towards learning. It concerns the goals people set to themselves in achievement situations. These goals are constructed when students try to understand the important aspect of an activity or situation. So briefly, learners who adopt mastery goals strive to deepen their understanding, improve over time the level of competence, master new tasks, and acquire skills and understanding through effortful learning, as opposed to performance goals in which learners define and evaluate competence relative to others. Here, researchers distinguish between performance approach in which learners strive to demonstrate high ability by outperforming others, as opposed to performance avoidance in which learners strive to avoid the demonstration of inferior ability. So previous studies show that achievement goals affect learning, but do achievement goals affect conceptual learning in diets that receive instructions to engage in argumentation? This issue has not been systematically studied yet, and it is the purpose of the present research. So we examined how achievement goals affect conceptual learning in photosynthesis, and students invited to participate in real dyadic argumentation. We considered the 3 achievement goals and wanted to study which of them is more productive regarding conceptual learning. We also had pioneering research hypothesis regarding gender. So our research questions were, does achievement goal impinge on gains from dyadic interaction in terms of conceptual change? How does achievement goal orientation impact on dyadic discourse, and how does dyadic discourse impact on conceptual gains? We also had a research question about gender differences. Are interactions between achievement goal characteristics of interaction and conceptual gains different for males and females? And how does achievement goal impact on conceptual gains for participants who engaged in discussion as opposed to participants who did not engage in discussion? So we had 141 undergraduate students from the faculties of Humanities and Social Sciences at the Hebrew University. All students were not knowledgeable about biological issues, and we had 2 groups, the experimental group and the control group. So briefly, all participants completed a pre-test in which they answered questions on photosynthesis, and then they read sources regarding photosynthesis and 2 contradictory reports regarding global warming. According to one report, global warming is caused by human activities, and the other report claimed that changes in temperature are a natural part of Earth's climate. So in the experimental group, students were paired randomly in 45 same-sex dyads. They participated in online peer argumentation to discuss issues and questions regarding global warming. The achievement goal variable was manipulated by assigning each dyad one of 3 achievement goals, and they were invited to engage in argumentation mainly on global warming. As opposed to the control group, basically it was the same conditions, but students were asked to think thoroughly and individually about the same issues and questions for discussion. And then they were invited to think and elaborate on global warming. So this phase was immediately followed by a post-test for all participants, and a week later a delayed post-test was given. So basically, as we see here, the tests examined photosynthesis, and the discourse they engaged in mainly had to do with global warming. So I will briefly show you selected results. As we hypothesized in the performance avoidance condition, students obtained significantly lower scores than the students in the mastery condition and the performance approach condition. However, there was no significant difference in scores between students who had the mastery manipulation and the students who had the performance approach manipulation. There was also significant interaction effect between achievement goal orientation, conceptual gains, and gender. And post-hoc analysis revealed that overall women improved in both mastery condition and performance approach condition. The y-axis represents the score they obtained in the tests. Here we see the pre-test and the delayed post-test. So there were also differences in discourse patterns, but there is lack of time, so I won't elaborate. So briefly, both of the experimental group and the control group had conceptual gains, but participants in the experimental group had significantly higher scores than the participants in the control group who did not engage in argumentation. And there were no differences in conceptual gains in the control group between the mastery condition and the ability approach condition. So our novel research endeavor showed empirically what factors inhibit productive argumentation and how can we promote productive argumentation. We found that achievement goal settings have enormous effect on the nature of discourse participants engage in. And it also, this research informs educators by shedding light on task design. If we incorporate argumentation regarding interesting socio-scientific issue, it is beneficial for conceptual change in science. And our research also opens a new window for further research for examining how SSI-based instruction can affect conceptual learning.
Applying your results to media, how do you think that we can change the information that is published? Because you said that there are misunderstood, wrong definitions about climate change. So, what would we do about it?
I think that if we look at the media coverage, it should equally present both sides of the dispute. Both the scientists that claim that we are responsible for global warming, and the scientists that claim that actually it's a natural process that...
Do you think that's what should be on the media?
I think the dispute should be presented...
and do you think it was not presented so far and it should be presented more?
I think it presented, as I showed in the presentation, but I think the dispute should be more open to the public, because science is not democracy. Only few scientists claim that it's actually a natural process. So I think the dispute should be open to public.
I have a question about this. I have a question. It's something like the discussion we had this morning on another topic like substance. But you said that few scientists, very few scientists now, say that global warming is based on natural changes in climate. I mean, the vast majority of science is on the anthropogenic hypothesis. I would say that more than 97, 98%, which means quite everybody. So, do you really think that the two positions have the same weight and that we should cover them in the same way?
I think so, because following Nir Shavir's claim that science is not democracy, because he represents the 5% who think that it's a natural process.
Well, why would we
About
represent
5%
equal to 95%?
Both of the groups claim that they have ample evidence for stating
But actually,
you don't have
just
just say it cannot be. You don't have really an alternative.
That's a very interesting discussion. I think maybe Neta's presentation would
In a way.
I didn't put it on, did you? If you
think
yeah.
the 5% have 99% of the 95% of the money.
Yeah, I just have to say that, funny enough,
5% of
this
science.
conference became in a way like an environmental conference. Like, how many did we have? Well, I'm very
Because the oil tycoon have the all the money to... Only one company invested $100 million in buying newspapers, buying politicians. It's the Koch brothers. What? You know them? They hijacked the Republican because they paid, נמנו את כל מי כל פוליטיקאי שרץ מול מישהו בתוך המפלגה, לא מקדימו, שאף אחד שתמך בהתחממות לא נבחר. לכן כולם גם אלה שמאמינים שיש התחממות מדברים ההפך.
השאלה אם כל שאלה שיש לה שני צדדים צריך באמת לתת את שני הצדדים בצורה שווה.
הרעיון של המחקר שבעצם המחלוקת הזאת בעצם תורמת ללמידה של מושגים מדעיים שבעצם יש לגביהם הרבה תפיסות. זה בעצם הרעיון של המחקר. כמובן שזה לא מחלוקת, אבל המחלוקת קיימת והספרות של המחקר. שיש בעצם...